Tamasvinavatiditamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
I'll ask.
Yep.
Okay. So in the morning you said Atman Brahman is the only reality of Upahet. And even Jiva and Ishwar come later. So Ishwar, by Ishwar we mean Sagun Brahman?
Sagun Brahman.
And then when we say Sagun Brahman, it's because like we are kind of creating that or projecting that. How do you define that? How do you differentiate that?
So the question is that we talked about Jiva and Ishvara as upadhis for, you didn't use that word, but
yes.
Upadhis for Brahman. So how does the Ishvara Upadhi come about? Who creates it, etc. Something like that. So the real situation is that each one of us creates both our Jivatvam and the Ishwaratvam. In the sense that we have always been Brahman. We've always been Aparichinna as the Atma. But because of the ignorance of the Atma, something is created. So this is the Brahma from the Ajnanam of Atma. Atma Ajnanam creates the Brahma. So Brahma means that you create a complete picture, just like dream, where you create yourself and you create a world around you. Right? You create both of them. So in the dream, you obviously create, if you were to have a dream where you say, in my dream there is some Ishvara who's managing our lives and so on. So you obviously create the Ishvara yourself in the dream. This is not as obvious in the waking world, but it is equally true. How it is equally true is that you've had millions of lives to create a very solid picture of who is the Ishvara and who is the Jiva. So both of them are all really the creation of the Jiva.
So Jiva as in the individual Jiva or is the collective?
No, just individual Jiva. An individual Jiva or individual. So this is a play between, just like in a dream, you have a dreamer. And you also play all the other roles. Okay, so everybody else is also you eventually in the dream. That's why the dream is a very important example of the the knowledge of how we have to do. But in this case, what happens is that Ishvara is also a creation by you which is non-real. But in the waking state, as things are, until you understand your Atma, you need to have a relationship with Saguna Brahma. So you pray, you devote yourself to it, you follow the laws of the Ishvara. All of that is there. But eventually, there is only one reality. And that reality is both you as well as the reality of Ishvara, which is Brahman. So the Atma and Brahman are really one and the same. Okay, but then you have two separate upadhis. One is what is called Niyamaka. The other one is called Niyamya. So Niyamaka is the one who makes the Niyama, all the order. And you are the Niyamya who is following those orders. And so the orders are that you cannot fly into Mars, you don't have any wings. So those are the order of the universe. There is something that you can do, something you cannot do. All of that follows the order of the universe. So that is the Niyamaka, Ishvara and all of that. And you are the Niyamya. So this is the play of Ajnanam, or you can say the play of Maya. So Maya means that it is the way people become a slave of their own ignorance. And so that possibility exists. If you remember, we have talked about that just like a painter needs the paints in a palette, or I don't know how they pronounce it, palette. The whole creation is done with light and shade of ignorance. So similarly, actually, really, if you look at a film projected through a steady light and a film, it is a phenomena that makes things look very real. Especially in the modern technology with all the sound and three-dimensional and all of that, it just looks so real that you swear that it could be, this is exactly what happens if you see a good movie. You don't look on this as, this is just a movie and so on. But you are just part and parcel of it. You get completely involved with it. So very similar to that is the case where all of the vasanas, etc., create this picture. And it's a false picture. And the reality of the picture is that there is neither a separate Ishvara nor a separate Jiva. Both are projections through upadhis. And the reality of the upadhi, upahita, is the single Brahma that connects both. Either one?
You can go, I shouldn't go.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we did discuss about crystal and flower, upadhi-wise. So, if I understand that Jivatva is because of the gross body and Sukshma Sharir.
Subtle body.
Yeah. Is that true understanding? So, Jivatva is considered because you have a body and gross body and subtle body. Or
Right.
it should be also the the current causal body.
So, it is that the gross and the subtle bodies are like upadhis on the crystal which is you, which is the Atma. It is an upadhi. But whether you get upset by it or not depends upon whether you are a jnani or not. If you're not a jnani and you are still under the spell of ignorance, then the upadhi is taken to be real. Again, we can always, I think it's very useful to look at the stage of a child, that he just looks upon the crystal as blue, not understanding that the book, there was a blue book next to it that makes it look blue. But again, same analogy as before, the blueness of the Akasha. For a jnani, the upadhi remains the same because it is prarabdha karma, it is already had made, but he is not bamboozled by it. He enjoys the fact that I'm just a body, and he enjoys the wow, my goodness, how did I even think about it? But like a sopadhika Brahma. That's why I think that example is a very important one. Nirupadhika Brahma and sopadhika Brahma. So it's a nirupadhika, this is a sopadhika Brahma. Because the only nirupadhika Brahma is the body and mind in your dream. But in the waking state, it is exactly the same with one exception. You have to wake up in the middle of the waking state and understand that this is just an upadhi. That's all. While unlike the dream, the state of the waking is still going on.
So the follow-up question, the ajnana, can it be part of the subtle body or no?
No, that is a karana sharira.
Yeah, got it.
Ajnanam is the karana sharira that gives rise to the subtle body. So the subtle body and the gross body are Brahma from the ajnana. Yeah.
That's what we bring it with us.
Correct, exactly. And that's always been there.
Yeah.
That's why we keep on taking birth again and again. Because the ajnanam keeps us confused, and we are not done yet, and in the meantime our body collapses. But our search is still there because it hasn't been answered yet. So I have to take up another body in order to make sure that I keep searching and inquiring and so on. So the ajnanam is this is what all the acharyas say. It's a very funny thing. It's not a substance, it doesn't have any weight, it doesn't have any form, it doesn't have any color, but it has a very peculiar property of hiding the truth. That's it.
So, ajnana can be removed just by understanding and proper study and getting the knowledge from Guru.
Yeah, so the thing is that in that sense, ajnanam is also mithya. The only satyam is you. And you have never been non-you. You have always been you. But it's just that you've been sort of covered by this cloud of not knowing yourself. So all the Shastra does is not to give you moksha, but to take away the non-mokshatvam of you. You are feeling that I am not there's something wrong with me. That feeling is removed by the jnana. Yeah.
And one last one. So, in a similar way, we can think about Ishwar and Brahma, considering the Maya element, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Precisely. And as I think we will repeat it, these are all very important things and we will spend more time on it. What happens is that through the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, which appears to be two things, we'll actually have a complete section on that, so I will discuss it in more length, but just because you asked, it appears to be two people. Jiva and Ishvara are two people because of the ajnana. And then you realize that both are upadhis and both of them reside on Brahman alone, or Atma. Atma and Brahman is one and the same thing. When that happens, then the Ishvara upadhi also becomes you, and the Jiva upadhi also dissolves in you, and you alone always have been and you will continue to be.
So, does that refer to Mundaka Upanishad, two birds on the same tree, ultimately it turns into one bird?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are two mythical birds. They are not real birds, but they are, from a mythical standpoint, they do have two distinct roles. It's exactly in a dream. It's very interesting. In a dream, you play, in India, you know what is called Bahurupya. Bahurupya means the same person plays many roles. So you and I are truly Bahurupya. It's like an actor that both plays one role as well as the other role in a movie, same thing. Why? Because in the dream, you become the dreamer and a person, some person. But you also become the other people in the dream who are bothering you. And you are saying, why are you doing this? This is all discussed in the Karika in great length. Objections are given, etc., then sustained. And there are objections as to there is inside and outside in Jagrata Avastha, but everything is inside in this dream state. How can you equate the two? So the answer is, even in dream, you create an outside and an inside. You create the other as well as me. So the same apparent duality that is there in Jagrata Avastha also occurs in the dream. So there is a complete similarity, no difference between them.
I have two questions. One is, when you refer to partial Ananda, you said it is Sapadik Brahma.
Yeah.
Is the partial Ananda you referring to the Vishayananda?
Yeah, you can say that. Vishayananda means.
Then is Vishayananda, actually, in true respect, is it the same Atmananda? It's coming out of the Atmananda. So only one Ananda exists.
Right, exactly. We'll actually go through this in some detail. So, but it's exactly what happens. So, again, since you asked, I'll just mention it to you, that the Sat that you see in other people is your own Sat. The consciousness that you see in other people is your own consciousness. There's only one consciousness. And the Ananda and the non-Ananda on the other people also comes from your own Ananda. So this is a play. And so one way to look at it is, this is why I think this is an important thing that we will see, we still haven't seen yet, that all the light in the movie, when you see all the flickerings and people talking to each other, is the light of the lamp. You see? And so this same phenomena applies to both Sat, Chit and Ananda, all three of them. So others' Ananda is also your Ananda. Others' Chit is also your Chit. Others' Sat is also your Sat.
Only one Ananda.
Yeah.
My second question is that when you're talking about Jara and Chetan, is it Sukshma Sharira? In the Vyavaharik Dristikon, it is Chaitanya, and in Paramarthik it is Jad. So in the Vyavaharik Dristikon, Sukshma Sharira is Chaitanya because of the reflective consciousness.
Yeah, because of the even so the source of the in the Vyavaharika Sat, what appears to be moving is also your movement, your not movement but your Chit form. This is exactly, we have to always go back to the example of we need to keep the dream in our back pocket all the time. Anytime you have a question, you take it out and you look at it. The same thing happens there also. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So one of these statements and understanding was Atma is ignorant, and that is where the parties of Jiva and Ishvara are there. My confusion is, why is Atma ignorant? If it was in the beginning, it is always there, it is in everyone, it's in every living thing, then the Atma cannot be ignorant.
So this is exactly, if I don't know if you recall this or not, it's a good question. And you remember my statement that I did from Swami Akhandananda, that this is not a dushanam, it's a bhushanam. This is the answer. That if that were not to be the case, there will be no creation.
So that leads to my second question.
But wait, let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
So the thing is that even though we have always been there, the ignorance has also always been there with us, okay? And so we have this peculiar property that it's possible that you are but you don't know it. That is the possibility. And for that we have to see the 10th man example. So in the 10th man example, you are sada aparoksha, always aparoksha, but you seem like you are paroksha. That's it, that's all. It just seems like it. And the ajnanam cannot bother me forever. Because once I understand that I'm something which is not affected by the ignorance. Ignorance goes. It goes. But until then, there is an apparent covering by the Atma, or by the Ajnanam, by to the Atma.
Yeah, see, I understand, I'm trying to understand that Ajnana will go away over a period of time because of learning, and it will not always be there. My question to myself is, why in the first place the Ajnana is there? That's number one. And number two, if the Atma is all pervasive everywhere, why in so many manifestations? Why the creation? Because if the objective is to go meet the Brahma or be one, then why start the distribution in the first place?
Yeah, it is not there is no why to it, why was it, this is the way it is.
Okay.
That is it. This is the nature of the creation. And it's a very beautiful creation because in the end, it's a comedy. For the time being, it'll be terrible. You know, there is a Western saying, which I've heard somewhere, life is a bitch and then you die. This is a very negative view of the whole thing. It's just the opposite. Life is kind of like semi-good and semi-bad, and then there is all good. So the thing is that this is the way the creation is. And it's not as though anybody created it. There's nobody created it. It is just the way it is. And it ends very nicely. So if you look at the Drishya, you have a possible problem. If you look at Drik, you have no problem. So this is the way it is. Nobody began, otherwise there will be no creation, no nothing, it will be only Brahman. And by the way, that's what happens in deep sleep and in Pralaya. When everything is in the seed form, you sleep well. But eventually, there is an expression of plurality that happens. So the expression that happens. And that expression appears to be troublesome, but there is a way to get out of it by understanding that this is just a mirage. That's all. Yeah. Sorry.
Somebody else?
No.
So my question was, so we discussed three
Hold
states,
on.
right? We have discussed three states: the Jagrat, the Swapna, and the Sushupti, right? So the Swapna state where we are dreaming is we are creating everything on our own, and when we wake up, then we are Jagrat. So, and both of them, you have said, are actually false. Both states are false. So, and then there is the fourth state, which is the Thorium state, where
Not a fourth state. It is the basis of all the other three. It's like the Jagrat Avastha is one type of an ornament. The Swapna is another type of an ornament. Sushupti is a third type of an ornament. And the basis of that is the Turiya, which is gold.
So my understanding was kind of like when you are become a jnani and you understand that this is all false and my true nature is always to be happy, then that's which is somewhat achieved in the dream state. Yourself kind of dissolves in the dream state. Depending on
You're saying it's something like the dream state?
Some like the dream state, but you're actually not sleeping. You are actually out. No, actually Sushupti. Sushupti is where the self dissolves and
Correct.
you're happy. And so Turiyam is kind of like a Sushupti state, but you're awake.
Good point. So, good question. So here's what happens. This is also one of those concepts that we should note. This could even be number 22 if you want to. Okay? So, what it is nothing really becomes fruitful to you unless you know it. Okay? So you can have, money in the bank, but if you don't know it, it is no good. Modern example is Amazon has already delivered the things to you. It's lying in your... And now, of course, they take a picture. Oh my God, these guys are getting so good, I cannot believe this. It's just amazing. We have just delivered this thing, and there's a nice picture. So it is something like Amazon has delivered, but you don't know it. It is yours. It's in your front door, and supposing there is no picture. So the crucial concept is nothing becomes fruitful for you until you know it. So now we can go back to your question on deep sleep versus deep sleep. You are completely happy, but you don't know it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You don't know it. What happens in this Jivan Mukti is that you have the same experience as the Sushupti, but you are aware of what you are. That makes all the difference. So there you are completely covered by ignorance. And in a way you can say, ignorance is bliss. The example given is that if you look at it, if supposing there is a rope and you don't have any even partial light on it, it's complete darkness, you'll never make a mistake. So in that sense, it's a correct statement. Total ignorance is total bliss. But sooner or later, somebody will turn the light on and somebody will wake you up. And so this is our past vasanas and karmas. Otherwise, you can sleep for a while. Some of our younger people in the family, they can sleep until 11 o'clock. You say, where is she today? She says, oh, she's still sleeping. Still sleeping? It's 11 o'clock. But at 11, something, and nobody wakes her up. But she finally said, okay, either you get hungry or you have to go to the bathroom or something. You have to wake you up. You're next.
It's okay, it's worth the wait. Of course, you should have been first.
If you fight, he will beat you up.
So how does Sakshi light up Paramarthika Sat, Vyavahika Sat?
How does Sakshi
Light up Paramarthika Sat and Vyavahika Sat? Like you said that in the morning.
Yeah. So, the Sakshi is the Paramarthik Sat. Sakshi is the Paramarthik Sat. Okay? But it lights up Vyavaharika Sat. So, this is the definition of Chaitanya. Remember, the Chaitanya definition was, the sun is a great example. The sun lights others up, but it doesn't need to light itself up because it is already light. You cannot say, I'm going to look at myself again and I think I'm all light. No, you are light, so you don't have any desire to see yourself. But in our case, the Sakshi is the Paramarthika Sat. And I'm lighting everything up. But for some reason, I have a defect in not lighting myself up. And that is because of the self-ignorance. Only because of the self-ignorance. So that's what the Shastra does, is to remove that ignorance. And then you don't have to say, I wish I could see myself. You don't need to see anything. You are already what you want to be. Something like that.
I'm not questioning the statement that, Atma is Sat and Jagat is Mithya, but I have a hard time understanding the concept and the example of you wake up from deep sleep and you were always there even though you were sleeping. And I mean, that's one statement, right? But the Jagat wasn't there when you were sleeping. Because when I wake up, I see myself as the Sukshma Sthula Sharira, and I also see Jagat. So the logic saying that you were still there when you were deep sleep or you were dreaming, but the Jagat wasn't there. It's sort of, when I wake up, I see.
Okay, so here's the thing. No, I think those are reasonable doubts. So what we have to see is that As far as the two states are concerned, which is Sushupti, the deep sleep, and the dream, they're somewhat different. Okay? So let's take Sushupti first. In Sushupti, the Jagat is there in your mind, but in a seed state. It's not gone, hasn't gone anywhere. Only time it goes is when you become a Jivan Mukta. It hasn't gone anywhere. But it is sitting there in a seed state. So the whole Srishti is what is called Bijatmaka. And this explains a lot of things. It explains, for example, the non-reasonableness of the question, which came first, chicken or the egg, father or the son, mother or the daughter. Nothing came first, nothing is, because they always become either in a bija state or it fructifies. So it is always there in one form or the other. And the same thing is true for our night and day. You are still there, the Jagat is still there, everything is still there, but in a seed state. And that, of course, is very important, because you need to rest your whole system. Otherwise, Swami Dhananand used to say that. He says, if sleep was not there, everybody would commit suicide by the time they are 15 years old. Life will become so burdensome. At least we get some rest and so on. So as far as the answer to the doubt on the Sushupti goes, it doesn't go anywhere. It just withdraws into the Karana Sharira. And if you study which we are doing, excuse me, if we are studying the Mandukya Upanishad, in the Sushupti state, that Karana Sharira is called Pragya. Pragya is the Sharira. So, I hope that, let me pause before I go to the dream. So see whether that helps at all or not yet.
Yeah, I think I'm just thinking, like, in terms of the pratyaksha, like, I don't see the Jagat when I'm dreaming, and
No, wait, let's not. So they're different.
Yeah.
So let's just go to the Sushupti first.
No, I understand.
Do you that? Because the Jagat is still there, everything is still there, but in a seed state.
In my mind.
Your mind is also not there.
Yeah.
You are not there. Even the Jiva disappears. Jiva becomes a seed.
Right.
Mind becomes a seed. The Jagat becomes a seed. Everything is in a seed form. That's why you don't have any differentiation.
Everything's dormant.
Everything's dormant. Exactly. Okay? All right. Let's go to the dream state. Okay, restate your question with the dream state. And I think I understand it, but
Actually, it wasn't so much.
Actually, it's not so much about dream state, it's about the logic that when you said, or I think that's what I heard, that the difference between Atma and Jagat is that even when you wake up, you know you were always there, even in the deep sleep state, whereas the Jagat was not there. So that's why Jagat is unreal, while Atma is real. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So my question is that when I wake up, yes, I realize I had deep sleep. I get it. But I also see Jagat in front of me. Maybe it's pratyaksha, but I see Jagat. And so the logic is that I didn't see this or that before, but now I see both. So how is one different than the other?
I don't know, your question is confusing me. I don't understand, quite understand what your doubt is.
हिंदी में बता दूँ
ठीक है
कि जब डीप स्लीप थी तो मुझे कोई खबर नहीं थी किसी चीज़ की, ठीक है। मैं जब जगा हूँ, when I awaken, मैं कहता हूँ कि अच्छा मैं अच्छा सोया था, ठीक है। तो and that to me it seemed was the basis to say कि that's why you were always there, चाहे सो रहे हो, चाहे जाग रहे हो, चाहे सपना देख रहे हो,
correct,
ठीक है। पर you're also saying कि because जगत नहीं था जब आप सो रहे थे,
okay,
तो जगत मिथ्या है पर आप सत्य हो।
So you are Satya.
Because you were always there even in deep sleep. So my presence in deep sleep, I understand it's in beach form, right?
Okay.
Jagat is in the seed form.
Yeah. But maybe I have to digest this information.
No, but let me just restate this and see if that helps.
Yes.
So you are always there. There's no possibility of you ever disappearing.
Isn't it the drik that's always there?
Drik is always there. Okay, you're always there as a drik, as a Atma, as Satchidatma, as we've been seeing.
Right.
You're always there as Sat. You're always there as a seer, and any kind of a anta, any kind of a stoppage of that is imaginary. It's not real. So you have Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam always. Then what happens is that you have, that is the basis of all play. So you have a Jagrat play, and you have a Swapnas play. Both of them are projections on your own self. You need to be yourself in order to have a projection. You need to have the light.
Yeah.
You need to have a screen. You're always the screen, you're always the projection, you're always the light, always there. So just the projections are different. That's all. The storylines are different.
Samajh gaya, but why is Jagat non-existent just because you're not seeing Jagat? Jagat is like the building, the trees and everything.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're always there. They're always there.
Yeah, okay. Now I understand your doubt. Okay. So, the thing we need to do is to keep the point of reference the same. You think that the Jagat is there even after you disappear.
Exactly.
Okay, now I understand it. Okay, I wasn't clear about it. This is false. And it stems from the fact that not only are you worried about yourself, you are trying to find out what is the end of this world and where is this world going to be, what is the history, and so on and so forth. That is also part of your play. So really speaking, I used to feel exactly the same, honestly. I'm just telling you, this is very normal. Finally, I got convinced. It's not easy, you have to think about this, that even the feeling that the Jagat will continue after I'm gone is false. Everything is false. There is no reality except for yourself. So don't worry about it because it isn't there. But it's a reasonable worry because it says, if I'm going to be gone, history is there. That is also part of the question of the jiva and the vasanas from the... So essentially, we create a world which is much more real than the dream. Because in the dream, you are, by the way, one can say that in the dream you can have similar ideas. That, after I am gone, this world is going to continue why is it going to be like this? What is the reality of this? So it so happens that in dream, unless you are a deep thinker for a long time, these kinds of questions will not appear to you. But it could. It could. So we have to see it this way. That even in the dream, you will say that this world is going to outlast me. I'm going to be gone and this world is going to be. What is the purpose of living? I'm not sure that I really understand, etc., etc. But it doesn't happen in the dream, but it could. The same thing happens in the Jagrata Avastha.
I have a question on top of this question. If he's done, if he's not
Chandra,
done.
I'm done.
So I think, yeah. I think the issue for many of us is, or at least for me it is, the Jagat appears so real, so solid, like you said, trees, buildings, people, everything, right? In Vedantic studies, we say when you are in Sushupti, the world disappears, or it goes with that seed format, but you're not aware of the world, right? You're not interacting, you're not transacting, you're not aware of it. However, when you wake up, you say, oh, I slept well, so somebody was there, so the drik was there, some consciousness was there who could say that, yes, I slept really well.
Yep.
And then when I wake up, then I see the world. It's, it had disappeared when I was in Sushupti, but now it's just a solid and interacting, all the relationships are there.
Yep.
So it's hard to conceive it as mithya. So I also struggle this is kind of what
exactly you were asking 2 days ago.
Yeah. So the only thing that came close to clarifying that explanation in my mind is when you gave the Rajju Sarp example. When you said that there's a rope in your room, and in semi-darkness or whatever you think this is a snake. And then when a light is shown on it, you say, oh, no, this is just a rope, it's not a snake. So the snake was in my mind, right? And not there. So when the light was shown on it, the snake from there became the snake in my mind.
Exactly.
If I had never ever in my life seen a snake or a picture of a snake, I wouldn't have imagined that snake is on. So that's the only thing that started clarifying in my mind.
Don't say only thing, that should be it.
Yeah, so that's clarified in my mind that the word is the same thing. I perceive the word as it is in my mind, but she may perceive the word differently because it's created by her mind.
Right.
So that's kind of which kind of clarified a little bit for me, although it still looks so solid that it's hard to feel it is just.
No, it is. It will stay that way.
Yeah, that clarifies.
Thank you.
That will stay that way until you have Atma Vidya. That's exactly right. So you're absolutely right. That's a very crucial thing. That made some difference to me when I read that from Swami Kandananda. And it's funny, this is not easily talked about. I don't know why not. Why couldn't I have seen that before? I would really have made more progress a little earlier.
Maybe your Adhikaritvam was not there at that time.
That's Guruji. But Nani is saying that he never had the knowledge of Shab. But there are a few other examples, right? Like crack in the earth, or some flower garden. That's it. I think that's not a question.
No, he's just commenting on it.
Yeah, so that's right. You can look at it any different way. It's not just one thing. The Sarpa example is given because it creates fear in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, it's a very basic.
You had a question?
Well, I said, and some of us are taking Jagat with us when we go to bed, the iPhones. Like 2 o'clock at night, you're waking up, checking Warriors, how did they do? Twice.
We're going to check it again
Of
tonight.
course, you're going to see yourself and Jagat alive.
Has it started?
8:30.
Oh.
The Pope is also elected.
We have all the time in the world for Vada Samvada. Don't worry.
No,
Use the Satsang.
actually, I had one question.
Okay, but she will ask it. She's asking. You're next.
You ask, then I'll ask.
So it's a very basic question. So there is one seer, and is that seer seeing one scene or different scenes? Like all of us are seeing the world as we perceive it.
So, yeah, that's exactly right. So what happens is that there's one seer, but our vasanas are all different. Our karmas and backgrounds are all different.
So each jiva
Each
is like
jiva-
a version of seer.
Yeah.
No. The seer remains the same.
Yeah.
But what you are seeing is all different.
How you are interpreting it is all.
And to a certain extent, we have some common karmas that made us all come together. You are seeing the same room as I'm seeing the same room. So it's that there is some commonality. But no matter where you are in the whole cosmos, you could be in anywhere in the whole cosmos, you'll be seeing something. But the seer who is seeing anything is the same as you and I. The consciousness remains the same. You cannot see anything until you are conscious of something. That consciousness is only one.
But these different scenes are playing out.
Scenes could be anything, it doesn't make any difference. It so happens that our karmas all brought us together in this earth, and so we have some common background. And so you can say that I've had trillions of lives, you've had trillions of lives. We have finally reached the stage we are human beings. And we have finally reached the stage that we are studying Vedanta together. So but even here, there are so many differences. Because you have the same scene, but everybody has a different view of it. Some are happy, some are unhappy. Glass is half full or half empty. It all depends on it. So yeah, but the seer remains the same. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, Ranjit, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vijay. I only wanted to know.
On to the
Yes, the
green
light should go.
Red आगे का बोल रहे हैं.
आगे.
I mainly wanted to know, I'm really not too much into the words that you use, but I got the gist of the whole, the 4 days that we attended. If we say, I think from what I understood, that what matters is eventually like it's the Atma that's the Paramatma or Ishvara and or Brahman. So we each have the Atma, there's only one Atma, and there are billions of people out there. And if that is true, is it only in our teaching that it teaches us that there is only one Atma and no other? And if that's the case, does religion play a role in it? Like, how we are so comfortable, though we are in Gurukulam, like, okay with what's happening in India right now. So it should be, every Atma should matter, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. But the Atma is not affected anyway. You see? It's not as though we're the same Atma, but that Atma is just a seer which illuminates our world. That's all it does. So the same Atma is for everybody, illuminating some kind of a world. But it is asangaha. It is not connected. So these are all copies of the same thing. This thing does not change and does not get affected, and therefore there is no change, there is no effect of one person affecting somebody else. Okay? All of that occurs in anatma. In anatma you have relationships, you have mother-daughter, son, wife, etc. That is all in anatma. But in the atma, there is no change, no nothing, it just sees things. And
it's the root of human life.
yeah, it's the very basis of everything. It's a single consciousness. And so there is no connection between one Atma. It's the same Atma, but there is no connection per se. That connection only comes in Anatma, and may come and may not come, because it depends on whether somebody is related to you or not. There you can have effects. You can have effects about India and Pakistan if you're a Muslim. But all of those things happen. But the Muslims have the same Atma. Pakistanis have the same Atma as Indians. So it's all the same Atma. But how?
That was my question.
Yeah, it's the same Atma. Same Atma.
It's very difficult to understand, like conceptually, because we always say things like millions of souls worldwide. Right? I mean, instead of people or humans, we always talk in terms of souls, and then we try to think of soul as Atma.
So it's interesting, yeah, interesting that you pointed out. She says that everybody talks about millions of souls. There are actually millions of souls. See, the word soul is not equal to Atma. It is Sukshma Sharira.
Those are costumes.
So the word, no, I'm just talking about the word soul. And in fact, you know what we also say, even if we are Hindus or Sikhs, we say the same thing, may your soul rest in peace.
So we shouldn't be saying that.
No, you can, it's not that true, it's not true. In fact, you should be saying it. You should be saying it, because the soul, as we define in Vedanta, is a jiva. It's a Sukshma Sharira.
It's all our vasanas and impressions along with our Atma.
Sorry?
It's all our vasanas and impressions with our Atma, right? That is the soul.
Yeah, so the soul is just a jivatva. Yeah, vasanas, etc. was included in that. So when you say, may this jiva have soul, that is correct. Because as a jiva, you still have ownership of yourself as a person. So let's say our parents, our mother or father dies away. And so, you know, when we do all the rituals after 1 year, 10 years, 15 years, or whatever, birthdays, it's very proper. Because they are somewhere in a different form. But they have two realities. One is the Sukshma Sharira reality, not a complete reality, but a relative reality. As a Sukshma Sharira, they are a person with likes and dislikes, Sukha Dukha, all that, with the changed environment. But they are also lighting it up. They are aware of the fact that I am this jiva. That's a very interesting thing, that we don't remember anything about previous life. So we all get separated. But the soul defined by Vedanta, also defined by Vedanta, remains the same. It doesn't change. Only times it happens is when they become a Jivan Mukta. Very few people become Jivan Mukta, so say, Baba, have a peaceful life. wherever you are.
Journey.
Onward journey, yeah. So it is proper to say have peace to the soul. Yeah. You cannot say that have peace to Atma. Atma doesn't need the peace. It is the very giver of the peace. Yeah.
I had one question.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of confuses me at times is when Vedanta says, you also said many times, we have had millions of lives, you just said we have had trillions of lives. And then I look at the world and the history of the world, and yes, it has existed for a long time, millions of years, but humans or even jeeves, have not existed for that long. So I feel like, how is that possible? How could we have had millions of lives, right? But is it because also there is this concept of pralaya, right? Then when pralaya happens, the complete system gets dissolved and a new system gets, Krishna says that many times, Shiva says that. So are we looking at maybe multiple galaxies, or Earth has existed before in a different format, or are we just, it doesn't compute for me, millions of lives, just doesn't compute for me. So I kind of want
No, actually, you know what? The more accurate way of saying even millions of life is not correct. You know what the right word is? Infinite. I remember discussing this with Swami Dayanji very early on. Very in the first week I met him. And somebody had a recent question on the same. It's not exactly your question, but very similar to that, so I'll explain. So, my father used to tell me, he was really not a believer in religion or something, very funny. He's a very decent man, wonderful person. But he didn't understand God or anything like that. My mother was just the opposite. So he would ask me, he said, how do you know? He said, so people when they realize who they are no longer visible, they are no longer human beings? I said, yes, that's true. They don't need to be. And he says, then there are lots of people who are becoming Jivan Muktas, and at that time I didn't know how many, so I said, yeah, there's a lot of people who become Jivan Muktas. So he says, how come the population should be going down? Why is it increasing? So I said, I don't know, it's this one. So I asked Swami Dayanji this question, and I remember this so well. I even remember where it was. It was in Arcata for 1 week, the first time that he came in 1976. And this was a 1 week retreat just like this. And we had a picnic under a tree where we took sandwiches and so on and just be outside for some time. But then Swamiji was sitting there. And I said, Swamiji, my father asked me this question. And I wonder what the answer is. Can you please tell me? So he first asked me, he says, he didn't know who I was. So he said, what's your profession? So I said, and he said, what's your background? So I said, I'm an engineer. So he said, you're an engineer, you understand science. And I said, yeah, basically. He says, do you know the concept of infinity? I said, yeah. So he says, it is not a large number of people. It is infinite. There is infinity in everything. In fact, there are probably infinite number of such classes going on in the whole universe. Not large. So when we say 100 billions or something like that is also wrong. Because there is no time. It has always been like this. Ananta. The understanding of the word Ananta is Antarahita, Anadi. No beginning, no end. It's always been like that. Only possible in infinity. But you know, we human beings, we don't understand infinity. Just give me a solid number. Tell me what's the population of the earth? How many earths? So somebody used to say that. He says, you think we are the only people? This is going on in infinite places. Ishvara's cosmos is not big, it is infinite. I said, okay, I understand.
So we could have been born in some different planet, in some different galaxy and...
Totally.
And there's a non-human with a very tiny lifespan.
Totally, yeah.
Fly which dies next day.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but then you look at so you disregard science which says humans only evolved, 1 million years ago or whatever. There is a timeline, so within that if you compute, it becomes difficult. But then if you say there are millions of galaxies and the cosmos is huge, then it takes on a different dimension. Then you are not so limited to just this galaxy, this.
No. What could happen is, and there also we don't have definite answers, that because of the karma and karmaphala, it is likely that you stay within some kind of a limited bandwidth of people. So fathers, sons, and so on and so forth, you have some interrelationship. But we don't know. So they say, don't ask these kinds of questions because there are no answers. You should just stick to what is obvious to you, it should be obvious to you. And this is all child's play and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, time to check the score.
29:50.
He's checking all.
It was past 9, we were writing up.
What 20?
Timberwolves, for end of first quarter, 29:50.
29 to 15? They are getting mad at us. Is Curry playing?